Welcome to my second video on the London system, and this was a game between two big hitters of America. We have Kamsky with the white pieces and Samuel Shankland with the black pieces, and it involved a very nice trick in the London system. And let's just dive straight into where that trick takes place, and that's already on move 9. And I'm just going to go through the captures very quickly here and see if anyone watching this quick clip can find an amazing move for white in this position. A position that actually looks quite passive. It doesn't look like white has any active pieces here, but there's a devastating move, which we'll look at in more detail later on. Can you see the move? The move is bishop takes h7 check, and this is what Kamsky played in the game. Another version of what we call the Greek gift sacrifice. Black really has to take this bishop, and now both the white queen and the white knight come flying into the game. Queen h5 check, only one move for black, and the point of this opening, knight to e4. The knight attacks the queen, but very importantly, the pawn is pinned because of our queen on h5. Just look at how all the white pieces just flown into the game. Fly, my babies, fly! And after the queen moves, the white knight finishes its journey on g5 with a devastating threat of queen h7 check. So this video is really going to look at how really the granddaddy or the hero of the London system, Kamsky, a player who's been playing it all his life, has got to this position. And we're going to look at other ideas and the current theory in what is probably the critical line of the London system at the moment. So we're now going to move over to that for chess.com subscribers and have a look at this in more depth. So let's go all the way back to the start and see the opening moves. And we had the d4 again. And like I said, this is our setup, if you remember the rules from the first video. Knight to f6. And we always follow d4 with bishop to f4, this move. And one of the advantages of this setup is it just avoids learning so much theory that you might have to learn about individual openings black could play. If you play c4 on move 2, you have to learn the King's Indian, you have to learn the Benko, the Benoni, you have to learn the Budapest Gambit, you have to learn so much. But if you go bishop f4, you cut across so much of this. And now black played d5, so we're back into our first 3 videos on the London system. Well, here we create our pyramid, and that's exactly what Gata did. e3, e6. Okay, he twisted the move order up a little bit here. There's nothing wrong with the move c3 here. But Gata played knight d2, and this jumps forwards to our third rule, which is develop our minor pieces before creating our whole pyramid, but it really doesn't matter so much. c5, now back to rule 2, there is the pyramid, knight c6, and now knight to f3. Remember, when e6 is played, we can always go knight to f3 as quickly as possible. Now, in the first video, we concentrated on bishop to e7, which I don't think is a great move, because the bishop's doing nothing there. Now, 90% of top grandmaster games nowadays are continuing with the following move, bishop to d6. And this is really the move that is meant to be the best reply to the London system at the moment. But I still think white has great ways of gaining an advantage here, and we're going to talk about those ways in this game. And after bishop d6, what should you do? Well, the point is, if you take on d6, you're swapping off pieces. The more pieces you swap off, the harder it's going to be to get an advantage. You're giving your opponent an easy ride by exchanging pieces. So I don't want to do that. Knight to e5 was a move I wanted to play because this is quite similar to our philosophy. But the problem here is that the e5 square is not really stabilized enough. And black can attack this square with moves like queen c7. And eventually we're going to have to release control of this square, maybe with knight d7 coming later. And I don't want to do that, and I don't want to exchange off this knight. So that leaves one option, one further option, the Mexican standoff, bishop to g3. And this is the preferred move of all top grandmasters, and it's the move you should play. I call it the Mexican standoff because these two guys, they got their guns out, They're ready to rock and roll. They're staring at each other. Who's going to shoot first? Is black going to take on g3 first? Is white going to take on d6 first? Whoever captures first loses something. For example, if black takes on g3, you just take with your h-pawn and look at this lovely file to attack along where the bishop comes to d3. This has got to be great. So here, the best move is castling. This is what Sam Shankland played. And now we've got to develop our final piece in the London system. This nearly always comes to d3, which points over at the black king. And now Samuel played the old main line in this position. In the next game, we're going to have a look at the new main line from black, which is b6, a superior move. I should also mention that Magnus Carlsen in this position has played bishop b5 a couple of times, but I don't see the need for this rather subtle move. I mean, us mere mortals can't always work up the subtleties of giants, so we should just stick to bishop d3. And now the old main line was queen e7, and this was fought about 10 years ago to equalise, but as Kamsky showed, there's been a lot of developments in this opening. Only now that the queen has moved to e7, should we go knight to e5. Because this has improved our position to when we did it before. For example, we don't have a bishop on f4 now, we have a bishop on g3. You might be thinking, so what? Well, if a move like queen c7, a typical move here would be f4, and we really get a lovely grip on that square, a move we couldn't play before because the pawn was blocked, but we can do that now. So this is now the right time to move in. Now, given a chance, we will simply castle, go f4, and start an attack on the king side, maybe with bishop h4 and the rook coming around to h3. This is a typical rook swing. Here, the old main line was knight d7, trying to fight for this e5 square. But now we're going to see this trick getting generated. Knight takes d7. And this starts a really dangerous sequence. Remember what we're going for from the start of the video. We're going for bishop takes h7 and this queen h5 idea. Now Samuel Shankland played bishop takes d7. It might be considered queen takes d7 to be a better move, but it still doesn't look very nice. And simply something like pawn takes c5 would be good here. After bishop takes c5, we can castle, and an important move to play next would be e4. We still have better development. Look at this dead bishop on c8. That bishop is not getting out of its grave for a long, long time. And I think most mortals here would take with a bishop on d7 after knight takes d7. And now we do this exchange. Bishop takes d6. Queen takes d6. We need to get that queen to the c5 square. Can you remember how? Pause the video now if you don't remember the idea and you're just trying to get it back in your mind. Should be clear. Pawn takes c5. Here, queen takes c5. What is the trick? The Greek gift? Bishop takes h7 check. A devastating move. And we saw this at the start, so I'll go through the next couple of moves quickly. King takes, and they fly into the game. Knight to e4, the key move. Queen c4 is black's best square, because at least the queen remains active here. Knight g5. And really, this is incredibly hard now to stop all the threats here, because queen to h7, checkmate is the main threat. You may be thinking, well, black can play queen d3, but what is the way to stop that queen coming back to h7 now? There is a good blockading move now. Pause the video if you need to find a move. e4, a very good move, just blockading the queen's route back to h7. And Samuel decided he had to move the rook on f8 to give his king an escape square. So he went rook to d8, and from this square the rook defends d7, so it might be best. Queen takes f7 check, why not? King h8, queen h5 check, why not? King g8, of course there's a draw here, but why do we want to draw? An incredibly strong move from white now, rook d1. In actual fact, the problem is black is absolutely helpless here. White always has this annoying queen check and queen back idea. This rook maybe later on wants to come into the game, but it really just stops the queen coming to d3 and prepares a very nasty idea here. I mean, what can black do here? Given a chance, white will castle and go f4. This is a way to build up the attack. As we say, the rook swinger. It's really, really just horrible here for black. And the game finished. E5, trying to create counterplay. White went back with a check. And now pawn to E4, using a pin on the queen. Well, it really is just disgusting, this position. Black has to worry about this check all the time. Knight to E7 was tried, trying to bring the piece around to defend the king, but okay, White simply took the knight. Bishop B5, threatening checkmate, so at least he's got a threat in, but now we see one of the advantages of having the rook here, can also defend. Rook D2, Queen takes A2, going for counterplay, but this has all been worked out. Queen to F7, and the net is tightening around Black's king. Check, the rook just comes back. Queen takes B2, and now we can see the king gets chased out of its layer, and it's forced over to the D file, and as soon as it hits the D file, we can bring our rook into the game with check. Again, that rook proving to be an invaluable piece. The king runs away, but eventually it's going to get tracked down with knight E6 check going on. Samuel Shankling decided to resign here. So what can we learn from this game? Well, again, the move order you have to be aware of, but we're really considering the move bishop d6 in this game when you should just retreat with bishop g3. You want black to take your bishop because then you open up the h-file, which will be very nice combined with a bishop coming to d3. If black does not capture, but simply castles, we finish our development. And now if he goes to the old main line with queen e7, now that our bishop has moved away, we can go knight to e5. If we're given a chance here, we're going to continue with f4, another good practical point behind bishop to g3, but generally the knight is very good there. And if we get a chance to do this Greek gift, we can take on d7, we can swap everything off, then go kaplonk it on h7 with a lovely end to the game. So a very nice victory for Gatikansky there.